Hi, this is Luke from Instant Chaos, and today we're going to take a look at unboxing Wonderlands War. So, just a brief intro of what Wonderlands War is. It is essentially a Alice in Wonderland's themed area control game, primarily with drafting and bag building. So, this is obviously the main box game. Over here we have essentially the box for the tray, which I will open up afterwards, and in here should be the deluxe tokens or chips. So we'll get to that afterwards. So why Wonderlands War? So one of my favorite game, especially around the area control game, is Blood Rage. And with Blood Rage, one of my more favorite mechanic is drafting. So that one, you're drafting cards. Drafting is quite a interesting mechanic in the fact that each game can be quite different because you would not know what kind of technology or cards or quests is available in the game itself. So that itself is quite interesting. Over here, this one has a open draft. And the open draft has to do with actually, let's take a step back and we'll go with what is hidden draft. Hidden draft is essentially everyone gets a set of information that only they know. So if we were talking about Blood Rage, then what we're really saying is you will know what cards you have in your hand and no one else will get to know. So you choose one of those and you pass the rest of the cards along. This is just mainly brochures. I'm not sure what this is. Just, I guess, a web link for more information. Got the rulebook. Rulebook is decently made. I saw online that is quite clear. People have taught it while actually reading the rulebook. But yeah, so going back to the draft, so that's a hidden draft where there's hidden information from other players because only you know what your starting available set of options are. An open draft is where the options are available everywhere. Oh, these are quite a decent bag. They're not satin. They are of a cloth type material. Very sturdy. Quite nice. So we've got I believe there's 5 factions. So we've got the Red Queen, obviously, the Jabberwocky. We've got the Mad Hatter, Cheshire Cat, and Alice herself. So in terms of open draft, all the options available and people can see everything that's available to them and then they'll just start drafting from there. All right, so that's enough about drafting. Let me just take a look at some of these components. So this is the Madness Shards, which is essentially a kind of black/gray opaque crystal. Very nice. I do like these rocks, I guess plastic gems as opposed to just wooden blocks. I mean, they're just a bit boring to me, but this is, I believe, will be used as a score marker, so that will be perfectly fine for a score marker. Not sure what this one is. I think this is to represent 5 madness shards because you can accumulate madness throughout the entire game. That we've got tokens for each of the factions. So I'll quickly grab one of each. And I always appreciate when they try to make the tokens for each faction a little bit differently, so it's very clear in terms of both color and shape. Let's see. So you can see the shapes are very clear and very, very vibrant. So looks like we've got the tea kettle for the Mad Hatter, little cat for the Cheshire Cat. Not sure what that is. Probably like a little monster. It looks like a rook maybe, because of the chess set. This looks like the Queen's Guard, which is usually a card, and then this is holding a spear, and I'm not sure what this is, pawn maybe? But anyway, that's tokens. We've got some standees here. So I think mine's the deluxe edition, so I won't be really needing the standees. But sometimes the standees are nice to represent, the battles. Over here we just got standard, boring, circular wooden tokens. I won't really go into that. So this here is the component. So the interesting thing is about this is if you did get the deluxe tray, eventually what goes in here will fit in this section. So it's about roughly the same type of thickness. I'm just careful not to pour out everything. But yeah. Right, and over here are the castles. So let me quickly pull out one of each. As always, the nice vibrant colors. I really like their different shapes. Always appreciate when they try and make things a bit different for each faction. So that's the castle for the Jabberwocky's house. We've got the Red Queen. Not sure if you can see that properly. But yeah. And then we have Alice's one. Alice's one is always weird. I'm never really sure what her faction is trying to represent. And then obviously Cat. I think my favorite faction is most likely going to be Cheshire Cat because I think he's the strangest one. And you've got the Mad Hatter himself, which is essentially a teapot. And is that spoons? Must be spoons. Alright. Let's just put these away. Oh, what did I do wrong? Alright. On this. So this is the deluxe components. Interestingly, they're not really painted, so you can't really tell that she is the Red Queen. But obviously, if you actually take a look at her, you will know what she would be. That's the Red Queen. We have the Mad Hatter himself. Should be the Mad Hatter. We've got a Alice. This should be the Jabberwocky. Not sure what I really think about the Jabberwocky, but I guess it'll do. It looks like kind of like an old man, like with his head. It's kind of weird, but that's fine. Who else do we have? This just looks like it should be the caterpillar. But where is the others? So these other miniatures tend to be more about the familiars or friends you can was a supporter. I believe it's a supporter that you can get to join your cause in your battle. Remit. We have. Not sure who she's supposed to represent, but I'm sure we'll find out later on with the cards. Well, looks like Humpty Dumpty. Yeah, I'm not really sure who all of them are. Hammer. No, I believe I looked at this before. Maybe this is the Cheshire Cat, but I thought he'll be lying on his side. We've got a Ribbit. Who do we have here? That's quite a cool one. It's an upside down rabbit doing handstands with his ears. Not sure who he is either. Bunch of teacups. And a little mouse in the teacup. Very cute. And then, so I love to get this game because I do like drafting in my area control game, and this has drafting as well as a bag building for push your luck. Essentially, blood rages just tend to be in combat. You just show your cards, and then that is pretty much it. But this one with that little push of luck, which is essentially kind of like rolling dice in a sense, that it can change up the combat differently. So in this particular game, the battle seems to be trying to get the most glory more than anything else. So you don't have to win the battle per se. You just have to get the most points in the battle and still leave your troops behind. Looks like this is just a book. Interesting. I'll probably have to take a closer look at this later. So essentially what it is in some games like Risk, you have to kind of like just kill all your opponent's army, and then only you're the last man standing. What is this? Oh, this is just some posters. Very nice. Oh yeah, so this is Cheshire Cat. I thought he'll be lying on his side, not with his head. Seemed to be chopped off by himself where he's on standing on it, but okay. Interesting. Then we've got the board, which I will show afterwards. We have the player boards. So, as always, I like variable player powers. Alright, boards are on the thinner side. I'm not sure if you can really see that properly. On the thinner side, it's still decently made. It's a dual-sided, but I believe there is 2 different type of powers on the top, so it'll give you a bit of a variable setup. And as you progress your upgrade path, you will also have a different kind of setup. Well, maybe not setup. As you build your faction up, you can build it in different ways, which will make the game more interesting. So I think that was one of the things that was lacking a little bit in Blood Rage, as well as some of the other factions, was they were never really truly felt different. You kind of have to build up your powers for it to be different. So I think a lot of their powers is usually done for the Tea Party side. The game is essentially split into 2 parts. One of them is more on the Tea Party side, which is your drafting side, and then the second part is around the battles. Over here, we've got some bags, which I'm not sure what I'll be using these for. You've got essentially a madness dice. I was going to say Magnus. Madness dice. Because the game's all about trying to control your madness, and the more madness you have, it will go towards your bag building, which is what you don't really want, because if you draw 4 madness, you've essentially just busted on your draws. So got cards. What are these? Looks like a ally reference card. I think let's see if I got this right. So the other part I liked about this is Blood Rage was different per game, is because you don't know what cards were available for the drafting, right? And so that is the only thing that makes the game really different. This game, however, has, if I got this right, has, what was it? These factions. So you can see there's A, B, C, and D. I think they should all be the same. And so what they've done is you've got the same set of, like if I was compared this to Blood Rage, this will be your monsters. So these are the monsters that can help you and support you in battle. So what they've done is the tokens are the same. You've got this the soldier, the card soldier. You've got your flamingos. Not sure what that is. You've got your rook and some, it looks like flowers. Now, if you're playing with rule set of A, they have a different set of powers abilities. If you did with B, they have its own set of power abilities. So C and D will have its own again. So you've got the same supporting allies or monsters. If you were to reference things to Blood Rage, then it will also have a variety of, I guess, setup depending on what you want to feel like playing. And that, for me, just extends the game a little bit more. And then it will make it as the game so that it's not the same every time. Because if you play Blood Rage enough time, you kind of know what monsters does what and whether you want to have that kind of monster or not. This one, you kind of have to, for the most part, I suspect most people will play all of them, and then they will go to the favorite ones, and then when they get bored of their favorite ones, then they can revert back to another one. So you got all these different type of cards. They'll do different things. I believe this is also the cards that you are drafting. Is this the card you're drafting? Oh no, this is, oh, that's interesting. So this is your supporting allies. So to do so, if you were to play with section A, you will group up all the A's together so that it can make it very clear what the supporting ally does, or what the ally will do. And I wonder if this is the same. This is probably the same thing. Let's just take a quick look at this. So you've got, yeah, so like I said there, you had a, looks like an extra one here. So it looks like there says quick player guide for each player. There's obviously 5 of them, one for each player, which is quite nice. You've got your tea party as well as your war phase. We'll get a little bit more about that afterwards. Then you've got some of your other allies. You've got more standard allies, just more, I guess, if you want the standard monsters from Blood Rage. And then this is what you're essentially drafting for. So we'll get into this also afterwards. And like with most games that I like, this has winning itself may not be the only option to win. So for example, Kemet to really score points, you really have to win battles. Like that is the only way you can't really score points, plus some other supporting mechanics. But for Blood Rage, you can obviously play to try and win battles, but there's also a low-key strategy, which is where you want to lose battle. So that also makes things more interesting in terms of the fact that winning a battle doesn't mean that you'll always win. So you can lose the battle to still win. Right, so we've got some quest card. This is essentially a wager card. You send a set of each set of cards. There should be 5 of them to each player, and then they can choose a wager as to who will win. We'll go back into these afterwards. And so the difference with this one is you get quests. So you can do quests to then achieve your goals and to get your victory points. And I think the first 25 would win. We've got, what is this? Looks like you've got this for 3 rounds. If I misjudged the drafting, are we drafting these ones or the big ones? Actually, it might be these ones that we're drafting. So this is, so these are the stuff that we're actually drafting. The others are supporting cards for these. So this looks like H2. I opened the wrong one. Just open this one first, and then we will get to the board. Right. So, is there anything else after this before I move to the board? Oh, we do have more things. we've got the essentially a giant guide for the tea party side, as well as it tells you how to set the table, which is also very nice, because sometimes I can't be bothered, having to go through the rule book to try and work out where the setup is always kind of a bit of a pain in the butt, because they may not be very clear. You have to go through multiple pages. And then not only that, they give you a quick reference down here, which is very, very nice. I'll come back to that one later. Over here, we've got these tokens. So this is essentially the chip size. I think when I first saw the chip, I'll show you the deluxe tokens. For some reason, I thought this would be a little bit bigger, maybe not quite a poker chip size, but this seems a bit on the smaller side. But I guess haven't actually tried playing it yet, so we'll see how this will go. If you've got the deluxe, well, I'll come back to this later. I think there's some stuff that you might want to keep from this. I think this is like the shield token you might want to keep, but I'll take a look at the deluxe side. Over here, you've got your standee, which has some decent artwork with obviously some promos of the other games. Interesting, Grim Forest isn't on here. This Grim Forest is a game that I got that made me interested about this game, because I actually late backed this one. Didn't actually get it straight away from the Kickstarter. So I think this was the third game on Kickstarter that I backed. We'll go back to this later. All right, let's go to the board. Now, how do these boards work? I might have to move some items around. Sorry, baby Yoda. Alright, so first half of the game, guess it's a good time to pull this out, is the tea party. So what would happen is everyone would start at the head of the table. So what would we do is so assuming you have 5 players, they will all start at the head of the table. And then you will shuffle your age 1 cards. I won't really shuffle these for now, and then you just deal them onto the side. Oh, I feel like all the special tokens are out. Alright, then I think this here's a big. Alright, so basic rule is you go clockwise. So other than the first round, where the starting player will start first, obviously, every other consecutive round, which is the start of round 2 and round 3, the player with the lowest score will start first, and then there's some tiebreakers. The best way I can really describe this game, or this particular phase, is kind of like a weird bit of musical chairs. It's a drafting with musical chairs. So if you're the red queen and you decide to sit on this spot on the table, then you get to get this corresponding card. Now, you can only go clockwise, but obviously, like I said, Alice can go anti-clockwise, or you can use some powers of your faction. So if you took this particular seat, you would then grab this card, and if you want to go back to the reference and the iconography, you can see over here you get to improve your leader's strength. You get to essentially draw a quest card, or because that's a slash, you get to unlock one of your faction abilities, and the faction abilities can be quite powerful. And then the last thing to note is, if you got a meeple symbol on the top, usually the top left, I think they're all the top left, and there's a corresponding number, then what would happen is you can choose 2 of your meeples, and you can place them of one of the 5 available regions. So in this case, we've got Wits End, Red Keep, Tugley Woods, Middle Living Flowers, and Pool of Tears. And since she's the red queen, I'm just going to put her over here with the red keep. So the red queen will then grab this card, and you'll do this until you got 4 cards each. Now the next person will then go here. All right, so, and you can, I'll just quickly do this one as well. Actually, so you get your faction ability, as well as you get a ally chip that has the one of the lowest was it with a dot, which is to indicate the weak ally. Now you'll notice that there's no meeple on the top left, but there is a madness dice, or what looks like a dice, on the top right. So if you get one of those, then you have to roll the madness dice, one of these, and then whatever you roll, which is usually between 1 and 3. I think there is 3 1s, 2 2s, and a 3. So depending on what you roll, you get that many madness shards. Right, and then we'll go along. So let's say, what's it? You go here, you go here. Oh. Alright, so those cards are taken, this card's taken, this card's taken. Alice, because she goes the opposite way, so I'm going to say she took that one. And then what will happen now is they will go again, right? So then it's back to the Queen of Hearts. She can take this one or one of these ones. Now, what she can't take is the ones behind her, because she can only go in one direction. So because she can only go clockwise, maybe she doesn't want to go to back to the head of the table, because if you go back to the head of the table, then you would also get more madness shards, because you notice that over here there's a madness shard dice too. All right, so let's just pause there and take a look at some of the other components, and then we will talk about the battle afterwards. So over here we have essentially the storage box. So let me put this up. What's up? And I'm always a sucker for magnets, so when I found out that this has a magnetic lid, then I was pretty much sold. So, yeah. And there's a lid here. Nice magnetic clamps. And then it also nicely tells you how to store your chips. So we'll go to this one afterwards. And then over here is all the tokens. So box, loads of tokens. You can see them all. Then I'll probably have to pause this video, grab all the tokens out, and then so you can take a look at it and then not waste your time as I pull each chip out of its bag. So if you give me a moment. Alright, and we're back. So that's what it will look like when you set it up. I have some comments about this. So I filled it up as per the board, but there's some things, maybe it's a bit of my OCD side, that's a bit weird to me. I have to figure out why they chose this order, but I would have probably gone, like, there's a 0 here, there's a 0 there. I'll probably try and put the 2 zeros there, and then 1s to begin with, and then 2 will be at the end. But that's just my personal taste. Yeah. So let's take a look at some of these. So each player faction will start with some of these. Usually, let's start with the Cheshire Cat. Should be a 2. I believe the first one, there should be one that's a 2. There we go. So you get these that will go in your bag. So there'll be 3 1s and a 2 to show the number of support. But before I get into that, let's take one of each. Alright, so these are very nicely printed. I'll try get this up right. I'm not sure if it shows pretty well, but it's not just screen printed. there's a little bit of a reflection to it. If you can see that. So there's a bit of a glossy part to it, which is quite nice. I wasn't expecting that. I just thought it would be quite bland and just normal printing. So yeah, pleasantly surprised about that. So one of the games I also got was Ankh. So this was a standard Ankh token. So if you have Ankh, then you can see that the inside of the circle of these chips is about the size of a Ankh token. I think this is a follower token, and then it's just a little bit bigger. So that will give you I guess, a reference to its size. Now, and with this tray is incredibly nice. I'll have to explore this a little bit further myself, because I have a tendency to try and do a quick setup. So even though this is all nicely set up, it is not conducive to essentially a starting player's setup. So what I mean by that is, let me just grab a bag. So we're going to be the Cheshire Cat. So every game you will start off with the 3 1s and a 2. So they will go in the bag. You will also get the, I guess, the 2 artifact chips that will go in the bag. You'll get a forge chip. You get 1 double madness shard and 2 regular madness chip into the bag. So I think ideally you'll have essentially 10 chips to start with. So essentially what I'm trying to say is as I'm storing the bag, I will probably just store it with just these 10 chips straight away. So that way I can hand this to the player and they know that the bag has already been built. There are, obviously, I have the option of obviously putting these other 5 in here. And so what these 5 are, is they will go and they cover the end spots. So as a player setup, that's what you'll have. You will also notice that there's some meeples on here. So then you'll also put 4 of your faction meeples in here. And so when you unlock them, that is when you will get these additional supporting troops for your army battle. Alright. Now, the interesting thing to unlock these is as you fight through and you do a forge, you will eventually have to start using up and sacrificing some of these chips to then put on here and cover it up to show that you have upgraded that part. Obviously over here is you can put up to 3 mana chip. The moment you put your 4th one, then all the chips that you've used will go back into your bag, except for anything that you have used here. So it's interesting in the sense that you have to be careful when to upgrade your faction, because by upgrading your faction, you actually use up a chip of yours. So that is just something that you have to kind of balance out. Alright. So I've actually filmed this part before, but then I realized I got some of the rules wrong. And so I decided to play a game and then describe what I've done with it so far. So one of the things I did was I talked about the tray. So this was the original game tray that came in this box, and I found that it wasn't particularly useful for essentially a quick setup. So I've essentially removed all the tokens from here now. So these tokens that was on the side, which was the very specific values, now kept in here. Where some of this was where the wooden tokens used to be. So it was one of these wooden meeples. And then they would have fit all along nicely. But then when I went to pack the game away, I found that was a little bit more difficult because you couldn't just throw them in. you had to stand them up, set all the meeples up and put it all in the line. It was essentially for someone who's pretty much quite OCD, which I kind of am, but not enough to want to carry on doing that all the time. So instead, I've removed it. I put the twos, I think these are the twos, in its own little column. Got the zeros here and all the ones there, and I put them in pairs because that's the best I could really do with it. But what I really want to show you is what I've done with this. So over here, instead of the tray, I have now set it up like that. So now you've got all the individual, there's your corruption tokens, you've got the flamingos, some forging, roses and so forth. But what's more important is I can now grab a bag. So this is the Mad Hatter, and with the Mad Hatter bag, this is all the meeples and the additional components they'll need to set up their board, as well as the scoring track. And then over here, I already have the 10 chips set up straight away. So I won't have to remember every time what everyone needs to start off with because it's already here. I think the only thing that isn't quite as clearly labeled would be the amount of madness shards each player will start with. So yeah, just thought I'd just quickly show this to you guys, and then we'll move on to an example of the actual battle. So, get away. Right, and so here is a battle board I have prepped earlier. So over here we have Alice, and we have the Red Queen, or the Queen of Hearts. So with Alice, you can see that she has her character in this Pool of Tears region. She has essentially her castle. The Queen is just a queen and 2 miniatures. And if you haven't already noticed, I've put the scoring track already. So how the scoring track works, or the battle track, is you will start by the base number of your leader strength. So Alice in this case has a leader strength of 1, and she will also get 2 for a castle that happens, her castle that happens to be there. So she will start at 3. On the Queen side, you can see I've now put her leader strength at 4. So she will start at 4. So what that means is these meeples soldiers that supports their leader, they don't actually count for anything except to absorb essentially the damage, or well, it's not quite damage, it is to absorb any madness shards that you might pull out the bag. So for example, the madness shard again, let me just pull that out, will be one of this. So if you pull this out of your bag, then you will lose one of the meeples. You also have the option, if you happen to pull one out, is to use your shield token. So this is the only way to essentially change the result of what you pulled out. So if you use the shield, you'll flip it upside down to show that your shield is now broken. You put the madness shard or madness chip back in the bag, and then you'll draw another one. Hopefully it's not a madness chip again. So in the case I pulled a 1. So because Alice pulled a 1, it's in her active zone. This will now go up by 1. Right? And the Queen herself will also pull another shard. Maybe she pulled out a 1. She will go there. And then you'll carry on for as long as you want to, or as long as you have chips in your bag and that you have not busted. So if you happen to have pulled out 4 madness chips, then the 4th one means you have now busted and you have to end. And so your score will then go straight back to 0. The Queen of Hearts would have won this battle, and when whoever wins the battle will score objectives based on essentially which round you happen to be at. So if you're round 1, she'll score 4. Alice doesn't score anything because she has dropped out of the battle altogether. If she did, however, had some points, then she would get half of whatever the number is. So in this case, she'll get 2. And the 2 will be victory points. Alright, now the good thing about Wonderland's War is, unlike most of the area control games that I've actually played with, I'm not sure about you guys, is if you win the battle of a region, your opponent's units will essentially get removed from the map. For Wonderland's War, it is up to you what you're trying to achieve in that particular region. So even though Alice may have more troops, she could keep trying to draw back just to score whatever points happens to be here, but she may just want to stop at 3, because she might have a hidden quest, for example this one, where it will say in the battle with 3, 4, 9 or 10 in the pool of tears. So she would have achieved that right now. So, and once she's done, she will score 3 victory points. And one of the things I did notice when we were playing the game, it is actually quite important, like, to score both the top and the bottom, because if you score the top and the bottom, then you will also get a bonus 3 victory points, and having this bonus 3 victory point is actually quite important. There's another example. You end the battle with a faction or artifact chip as your final active chip in the pool of tears. So you notice that she has a track of for active chips. So this here will be her faction chip. So because she achieved that, she could also have done this. So going back to the battle, let's say they both carried on, they both drew lots of chips. The first one to 25 is the one that will win the battle, in case it happened to work out that way. And that was pretty much all I wanted to show for Wonderland's War. Oh, except for one final thing. Your initial setup will look something like this. These 4 tokens will here. Leader will start with a strength of 1. And then you've got your artifact chips at the end. Well, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hope you have a good day. Cheers.